Welcome to my blog, guys, and this time I would like to introduce to you this book that I had. The title of the book is The Mystical Philosophy of God. You see the cover, guys, cover concept of the book. I would pick it, guys, in some of the old magazine. Then I will paste it in here in front of the book because I really like with some photos, guys, that show with some so mystical or so lot of mysterious events, especially in the past, because in history there are so many things, guys, that we don't know yet. That is why I offer this to you guys, book, so that you will learn also my philosophical aspect in life, especially in dealing about the existence of the Supreme Creator. And as a Roman Catholic, I would really agree, guys, that historical moments of the Christianity is the most important things, and especially in dealing about the existence of God. And I hope that you will learn much more about this, because I would only collect some important details here in the book. Okay, the first philosopher first I would mention was the name Carneades. Okay, Carneades was one of the brilliant skeptic, as what I know. According to him, there are three moral aspects of mentality. One is the sensation, then the conception, then the reason. In his belief, that when a person, guys, has this kind of perception or pragmatical aspects of philosophy, first he must conceive the what we call sensation. Based in me, he was also a good epistemological philosopher, guys, because he was basing senses of a human being that can only the hard living matters that will know all about the reality. So according to him, if a person will can adapt to his mind the sensation that conceived by a person, then this sensation, guys, will then come through with his own mind or idealism to conceptualize things. So if Carneades, for example, had shown an object uh, outside of his physical attributes. Then he conceptualized this object as true because it was came from his own sensation. But then after it comes through the kind of sensation to the conception, then he would also conclude that lastly, when the person talk down this two mentality, and then he was also down with the so-called reason. Here in this reason he mentioned, we can realize that he was also having this last will of testament, especially in dealing with mental reality. So in reason alone, these two concepts of sensation and conception must be screened out. It's because if the reason tells that that conception is not fit or consistent with the sensation, then the answer of the conception in connection to the sensation is false. So the reason itself, guys, is the most fundamental institution. That's because once the reason comes up in the mind, then the reason of the mind will judge out of what is really there in the conception. So it must be also, guys, that the sensation will be what we call this, the on outside of the box of the experience based on what is had in the conception. So sensation was the false aspect of trend of mentality, not the reason. When these three mental reality will conform and become united, it will comes out with this what he called criterion. Criterion is, according to Carneades, was the basis of all these three mental reality and the outcome. Because in criterion, the judge mental maker can decide whether what label or options of existential philosophy he was need to be carried. Absolutely, the philosophical thoughts of Carneades in regards with mental reality was the final options of discovery that an individual person will have done this formation of logical mindset. Another brilliant second philosopher was in me was Jara Cimrman. To all of you guys who don't know him, Jara Cimrman was one of my favorite philosophers also of all the time, aside from Carneades. His philosophy, guys, comes from the word externism. Externism, according to this book, is a fictional philosophical theory proposed by the fictional Saisak genius Jara Cimrman. He was the founder of this doctrine of philosophy. The epistemological theory contradicts the traditional theory of solipsism. Solipsists believe that only the individual self exists and the external world does not. So he pioneerized, guys, this revolutionized theory of philosophy against the solipsism, because solipsism theory is based upon the individual selves, while the external world of idealism does not exist. So it is clearly approved that Jara Cimrman constantly reject this solipsism philosophy, because according to him, the idea that it is the external world which exists and the philosopher's individual self does not. Jara Cimrman replied that the fact that he does not exist does not mean he is not perceptible. So he said, guys, exactly that if the external world does not there beyond, so that individual philosopher mentioned out by the solipsist is only exist, while the external world does not. So this is what we call a blessing to these guys, because Cimrman want to function his idealism in this such kind of matters. He compared the world to a space with a small place in the middle. Where Jara Cimrman is missing, if you had a piece of paper with a hole in the middle, the paper can be compared to the external world and the hole which is clearly visible to the non-existing philosopher. His philosophical thought, guys, according to him, if okay, let's going to illustrate, guys, so that we can finalize out that he was very brilliant philosopher. So let's going to get some paper, and I'm gonna draw some illustration there, and let's go into one by one examine this kind of aspect he had. So we had this paper already, guys. Do you see it? Okay, this is a blank one whole sheet of bond paper. Okay, there is no yet illustration here, so it's going to illustrate what Jara Cimrman thought about if it is fixed without in this kind of observational experimentation. Okay, according to him, in this paper, if we are going to make a hole in the middle of the paper, so it's going to fold out this paper in one half. Going to divide it, then after that we're going to make a hole at the center of the paper, so it's going to turn it out. So that we can make a hole in the middle. So we had already making a hole in the middle of the paper, so it's going to open the paper now. Okay, you see, we had a hole in the middle of the paper. So basing in his analysis of his philosophy, Jara Cimrman, the paper was illustrated as, or can be described as, an external world of idealism. So basing on his externism, he strongly believed in his theoretical aspect of philosophy that the external world does not mean that they are out of the dimension or the zone point of the perception. Because if this is not exist in this kind of such of matter, then it is out of this order of the world. Then what matters most is that center of the whole of the paper is non-existing. So if the paper illustrates us an external world, then there is no hole in there in the middle. Then possibly that means that it's a zero conceptions of idealism, because there is no hole in there. So that external world of ideas doesn't mean that it is not exist, because without the external world that comprises it, the middle hole of that illustrated hole in that middle of the paper, it means that it doesn't matter at all. So it is empty. Just like what Nagarjuna says, it's empty and it's all nothing in existence of reality. So basing in my own ordinal thoughts of what Cimrman idealism of externism and materialism, I briefly conclude that his ideas was one of the most brilliant conceptualism. When you say conceptualism, that means that our mind or our body is, or our soul is the universe and not the outside material things. So, based on his externism, that whole means if that is the individual philosopher, then where does the individual philosopher gonna come through in any direction if without the external world that cornered it? So possibly these brilliant ideas of Cimrman was the most comprehensive techniques and strategies of how the external world is very important to the living of the person in this entire universal aspect of reality. So, basing in scientific philosophical externism of Cimrman in his idealism of middle hole in a blank empty paper, if we are going to regard that matters, guys, in this solar system, as what you see now in my background behind me, if the hole in the middle considered as the sun, which is the center of the solar system, and while the other
Mexico is the center of the universe.
while the other planets surrounded the sun in the middle. So, basing in this analogy of him, concluded that if the external world of idealism doesn't evolve or exist in this matter, and the only individual philosopher or entity is only exist. So how can the sun only can evolve itself without the other heavenly bodies that comprises it? So it means that it is useless that the sun is only exists without the planets that surrounded it. So this is a very brilliant phenomenon, guys, that Cimrman as a philosopher was a very wisest of all this kind of problem of solving philosophy, especially in dealing with very complex reality of idealism. So if you are an individual entity which is such as walking alone in the darkness, for example, then there is no lightness that surrounded you. Then how can you approve that you are alone only? Can or only that exists? in this such kind of phenomenon. Without this external world that you are going to walk through or standing up the ground. The third most relevant philosophers, according to my own point of views, was named Nicholas of Cosa. Here is this guys. Nicholas of Cosa was born in 1411 and died in 1464. He was a German philosopher. And based on his philosophy, I greatly admired him, guys. Because as a philosopher like him, many of these philosophers lifted us with their books, so that the human being has a clue or guidance of themselves of how to discover the reality of life. So according to him, guys, God is the not other. So we base this on the idealism of Jara Cimrman, on his concept of external world, of externism, and connection with Nicholas of Cosa idealism. It greatly functioned out in the same reason itself, because it means that in nature there is a divisible aspect of reality, of dualism. I think Nicholas of Cosa was right on this reason, because if we are going to example this guys in a big vast forest of the jungle. So if that jungle, guys, is surrounded by many big trees and woods, guys, the colors of the jungle, guys, is all green. So based on my imagination in regards with Nicholas of Cosa, in regards also with some philosopher I mentioned a while ago, actually in my first blog, in my second blog of philosophy, I mentioned that name, the philosopher, but I just forgot it, guys. So if the jungle is surrounded by many trees, so the color of the jungle is green. And if that green color comes in our imagination, then that is not the same with the other colors. Just like, for example, Mary Angel. Okay, what is the color of the heart?
No, it's red.
Okay. My daughter, guys, answer me that the color of the heart is red. Okay, that is right. That's why, guys, colors is also very important in dealing with the problem of imaginary things, or hypothetical color of things in nature. And that is the real ones, guys, that we can agree that philosophy is the rightmost things after all, because we cannot judge out without this phenomenon of colors in nature, guys, especially if we are going to deal with children like my daughter, guys. My daughter is one also of my wealth, guys, in terms of intellectual matters, because I know that she was very also intelligent like me.
Like her mother.
And I was so proud as a daddy of him, guys. So by the way, if we are going to continue the studying of Nicholas of Cusa based on his idealism, it is right. So if we continue to read about more his philosophy, it say, guys, that okay, in this dialogue he uses the expression the not other as a substantive for God as the divine not other. Even though we are more familiar with the phrase in comparative expressions that are negative ways of stating self-identity. For instance, the tree is not other than parenthesis equals the same as identical with the tree. Cusanos can thus paradoxically assert that God is not other than anything God has created and is sustaining in being. This is a very deep analogy, guys, of Nicholas of Cusa. Very perplexing mental altitude we are going to deal with him in his philosophy, because he said, guys, that if the tree is not other than equal the same as identical with the tree. So if we are going to draw one of the species of a tree, then that other species of the tree is the same as a tree. You cannot philosophically say that if we are going to plant a tree in the soil, then all that kind of tree is not a tree. Just like if we are going to plant an eggplant, like for example, or pineapple. If we are going to plant an eggplant, then the fruit of the eggplant is cannot be a pineapple. Or if we are going to plant an orange, then the fruit of the orange is cannot be a grapes. Am I right, Mary Angel?
Yeah.
Yes. She said, guys, that I am right, because God is the not other.
Huh?
God, guys, really sustaining us with His power. According to really from Cusanos, guys, or Nicholas of Cusa, he said, guys, that it's because God is incomprehensible or incomprehensibility. God is the coincidence of opposites. God is the coincidence of opposites. In all things, He is that which they are, just as in an image the reality itself, or according to their language, guys, or his language, veritas, as it means present. Cusanos writes is that there is no exactness outside of God, and only God who is everywhere and nowhere is it the universe, circumference, and center. So, in regards also related to such as matters in physics, guys, in regards of heliocentrism, the opposites of heliocentrism, Nicholas of Cosa greatly disagree this physicist or astrologist being mentioned out. It's because he believed that God is the only sole creator of the whole entire cosmos of the universe, and God present his presence of being everywhere and nowhere. So it is universally in all aspects of being, or even in nothingness or emptiness, God is always there. Because he was, according to Cusanos, as supreme sustainable being that support the human being also. God provide also to the weak people to become strong, just like putting them with their heart with some love, like for example. According also to Cusanos, guys, that he believes also in his saying that Jesus is the image of God. It's because Jesus present in human being, including inside of their heart, to present his nature. So God is not the other. God really loves human being. Another brilliant-minded fourth philosopher I mentioned was named Huishi. Huishi was one also of the great Chinese thinkers, aside from lots of Chinese philosophers also that I like, really. And this philosopher, guys, Huishi, recognized me a lot in his philosophy. I gain also knowledge about, and it changed also my actions of beings or thoughts in reflecting his philosophical ideas or idealism. Let's going to read, guys, about the philosophy of Huishi. But Huishi, guys, I tried to collect it out or search out, guys, his pictures or photos there in the Google, but I cannot find him, guys. It's really hard to find out his personhood or identity. But according to some most philosophy, Huishi is really existed long time ago. So we are going to narrate or illustrate or explain all about his philosophy. So let's going to read the book, guys, that I made. Okay, Huishi position adopts a non-realist. He was not the same with Nicholas of Cosa or Cusanos, by the way. because he was a non-realist philosopher. Attitude toward distinction, it holds that no single scheme of distinction is fixed by the world. However, if the monistic interpretation is correct, then Huishi position is realist in this sense with respect to the one body or great one. The null scheme consisting of the absence of any distinctions. That scheme is fixed by nature itself. Second, Huishi views does not hold that since division leads to contradiction, don't divide at all. Far from regarding contradiction as a problem, it welcomes them. It explains them by appeal to constantly shifting perspectives or standards for distinguishing same and different. Wishy guys, according to my own observation about his philosophy, is a wise, brilliant philosopher, guys. In dealing with how to distinguish between the distinction of an objects or things. According to him, guys, that the largest objects does not allow anything to be outside of the great one itself, and the smallest object does not allow anything to be inside the small one. So the analogy of Huishi, guys, will cling to this very ideas, guys, that if I had these two objects in my hands, both in my hands, we can distinguish, guys, that the object has a different size or shapes. As you see, guys, that this object, guys, has a big size of shape of circle, while the other has a small size of circle with it, which is the small one, and this is the great one. So these two objects generates as an artifacts of or an hypothetical examples of Huishi's idealism. So if I am going to do with this in relation with this other object, which is the Carabao, then the Carabao can go easily with these pieces of object, because this object has a big hole or a big shape of circle. So the Carabao can easily go inside this object or can go outside in the object inversely. So it is very easy to analyze his analogy, guys, of Huishi. And second, if this is another object of size of a shape with a circle, then simply the Carabao cannot go inside of this size of shape of circle, because it is too small to the Carabao can go inside. Look at the Carabao, guys. The Carabao will only hold his nose, guys, and cannot go in because it's stuck, because this object has a small circle only. So in regard with that, with Jara Cimrman idealism, based also on the idealism of who is she. Like for example, this guys, okay, by the way, this is draw also by my daughter, guys, Mary Angel. The sun, which is the center of the solar system, while surrounded around the sun, while was were the heavenly bodies. So if this is the hole, guys, in the middle of the paper, look at the hole, guys. The hole has very small only. So if the Carabao, guys, must go inside this hole, guys, the Carabao is hardly can difficult to go inside of the hole because it's too small, guys, the hole in this paper. So let's try, guys, if the Carabao can go in really inside this hole, guys. Like for example, the Carabao want to go inside. Okay, guys, look at, guys. Okay, only his nose, guys, will appear on the universe, while his other faces, guys, not shown. It's because there is only a small one hole in the middle. Look at the very illusions of who wishes idealism is. It's like for example, these two objects that I mentioned. Look at, if I'm going to combine or collide these two objects, guys, in front of you, look at the illusions of this object and the shapes and size of the objects with the circle. Analyze it, guys. How Huishi was a very brilliant philosopher. Look at, my analogy is this: if this has the big circle, then this is a small circle. The great one is easily can go in or outside of the small one circle. So how this possibly and illusions like this, guys, being made? Only Huishi mind, guys, really can discover these things out. The very idea of this, guys, that the illusions is that this great one, guys, having a great big circle like this, while this has a small circle. So it must be these great ones with circle like this cannot go inside of this small one, but the great one is easily can move in or out in the small one. Look at the illusion, guys. So it's very funny to play with this kind of object. But by the way, this illusion is very real, guys. Yeah, we cannot only use an imagination of these things, but in reality this really exists. So what the object must going to need, guys, that this object here cannot go inside of this whole of the small one. But the great one can go inside and out of the object. But the problem there, guys, is that here is the big object having a great big circle cannot go inside of the small one. So how can it move in or out if this has a very small circle, while the small one can go easily in and out in the great one? Finally, the very philosophical fundamental use of which is philosophy, guys, is very logical. He used logic with some metaphysical usage also of philosophy to target setting, guys, the problem of metaphysics. Based on my analogy of the very aspect of these two great philosophers from Cusanos, between who is she, the German to Chinese philosophy, contradiction comes through, guys, that both has a great philosophy, because but he has this kind of different doctrines of usage. Huishi, in my own opinion, was a monetist philosopher, while Cusanos, or Nicholas of Cusa, was a dualist philosopher. Dualist and monetist has different point of views in terms of philosophy, because dualism believes that in nature there are two divided things, while in monism there are only one only existent of things. So it is really a contradiction between these two philosophers. But in the side of the Cusanos, for his believes that God is not the other, it completely comes in my thought that Cusanos has this kind of very phenomenal mentality, that nothing also from what in who wishes mind or philosophy. It's because if God is not the other, then Huishi comes to an end of this very idea of essence, that there are, or there is only a one source of reason of everything, without even the connection to the God. So in my opinion, Huishi has this kind of a little bit of existential artistic kind of philosophical ignition with his thoughts. It's because he believes only in one existence of being in natures, while Cusanos believes that God is not the other. So it is very strictly a dualistic principles, while in Huishi was a monistic principle. So that is the most difficult things there, guys, that to develop this kind of theory, that philosophy must very important also in terms of matters, this kind of subject. It's because without philosophy, guys, there will be no aid of reason to come up with this, to uh, uh, discover the whole truth of reality in life and in the universe, or in the supreme being who is God.